this.
You know, I laugh when I watch your videos, and it was like some of the cars you clap your shoes in, some of them you don't. You really don't have to worry about it that much, because these carpets are pretty well ruined.
If you could only see this Aston Martin, maybe you would understand why I clap my feet so long before I climb on inside. If you could only see how blue my balls can get when this makes about 420.
What on earth are we doing? Why are we doing? We don't belong in this car. I don't belong in this car. This is a 2012 Aston Martin V8 Vantage Roadster. This is a car that costs as much as a house. This car cost as much as a ranch house on 1 acre of land where I come from. And it's slower than a Corvette C7. Look, I get it. This isn't a regular car. At all. It's not the economy shoeboxes we usually review, nor is this anything we would ever hope to use as a daily driver. But here's the thing, even in a parking lot full of Tacomas and C3s and Sunfires, this Aston never got a second look. Throughout our entire time in Toledo, not a single head turned. That's a lie. One person knew what this was. One person, and we were out here for 3 hours. One person knew that this was a Vantage. Even in the presence of lesser cars, Raf Orlov's Baja bug elicited more interesting stares and smiles than this. But here's the experience that we took away from driving this.
Oh, why do people buy Astons? Oh, my ass is blasting. Oh, I have to spread the word of this colossal turd. Oh, it feels so wrong. That's why I'm calling Blake.
Hello?
My Venus won the popular vote. I can't get into Congress. Why don't the kids smile at me? I'm trying my best as I drive past my can. My cat has 2 vaginas. I don't know where this poop is going. I put a small transistor on it, and it went to Hoover National Museum. Pepsodent is my preferred toilet paper. It's complete care, complete protection for strong enamel and healthy gums and whitens teeth. And it strengthens my confidence with art majors.
Driving an Aston Martin is like wrapping yourself in the king's cloak. For those who know, they know you're up to something good. When I was driving this car, it felt like I was a more important ant to the rest of this collective anthill. An Aston Martin fills you with a real sense of purpose. When I drove this car, it felt like I mattered. It felt like I matter in the way the owner of this car matters. The owner of this car has a great story. He went to school for computer programming or some such major, and he figured out he knew more than his professors. So he left school, started his own company, and within 3 years he's turning a healthy profit, and he bought this car for cash. And you know what he does with it? He autocrosses it. Yeah, he shows up right next to all the Miatas and everybody in their Ford probes. And he goes, "Hi guys, I'd like to race with you today." And he just burns the tires off of this thing because he can. Wouldn't you? Yeah, it's a high-end luxury vehicle, but Aston Martin's welcome being uninterested. And that's the interesting thing. I'm not sure many other luxury cars can be this inconspicuous. You can almost understand why they chose this to be the car of that one spy from England who no one remembers. With that said, we got over our sense of awe pretty quickly, and I imagine an Aston Martin owner and his reverence are just as easily parted. Reverence can be good if it translates into dedication and attentiveness attentiveness, like it does with Corvette owners. But having stars in your eyes over a car you're not pouring yourself into is about as useful as emotions on a real doll or an odor function on a fleshlight. Post-2008 Aston models like this one come with a 4.7-liter V8 engine making 420 horsepower. The 7-speed automated manual transmission was a nice surprise, even though this doesn't boast the same level of performance as other cars in its class. Again, the C7. But the exhaust has this musical quality to it. It's not harsh like a tuner car. It doesn't reanimate Reagan like a C7. It simply says, I'm off. That would have been something I could have... Drop the top and listen to it sing while you're out there. It's like scenes from an Italian restaurant being sung with earnest. That said, we were kind of disappointed by the exterior. I mean, yes, it's very pretty, but it's not striking, and maybe that's me as an American wanting something a little bit shouty, like the C7. It's easy to see how some people look at this car and say, oh, I didn't know the Ford Fusion came as a convertible. The V8 Vantage is like clicking on a pretty girl's profile picture only to meet her and find out she was just having a great hair day. Sure, she's still pretty, but not that pretty that was promised. But even with an underwhelming aesthetic, the car still gives off a pervasive aura of worldliness.
These are magnetic. The little strap that holds the seat belt to the seat is a magnetic clasp.
Aston Martins are the official cars of Windblown Hair and Baltica number 9. How do I pronounce that? Baltica number 9. Get behind the wheel of an Aston Martin and suddenly you become a person who has no use for anything but the finer things. Just kidding, we went to Outback Steakhouse after this shoot and I farted a lot. The V8 Vantage Roadster is for the man who sees eating pussy as business and pleasure. He'll get in trouble with Johnny Law, but he'll find a way out, because he always does. The 2012 Aston Martin V8 Vantage. The official car of... I'm sure we can settle this out of court.
This isn't regular. An Aston is too nice. But guys, this made us hard. It put our balls on ice. Mr. Regular does car reviews. Roman sings the songs and writes some jokes with him too. Just watch this for yourself. There is no back seat. This Aston's nice, but still, we will serve you meat.
There's a few things left unsaid.
Hello?
Blake, it's me again. Don't hang up, don't hang up, don't hang up, don't hang up. This has nothing to do with that. I wanted to ask you, since there's this weird
Feeling that I'm having trouble getting across in this video about the Aston. It's never been around.
expensive cars before, and you have.
Okay, yeah. Why do I feel terrible about it?
Because I should be happy.
When you're driving it, or do you feel terrible that out of principle?
I think I feel terrible out of principle. Because this car, I could never get away while driving it the thought of the cost of this thing.
Because for the price of this car, I could buy my parents a new house.
And when I got back from the road trip and explained to people, like, oh, I drove an Aston Martin V8 Vantage Roadster. And they said, how much was it? And I told them, well, you know, you buy one of these things used, they're about $100,000 or thereabouts.
And they all said the exact same thing. They said, why would anybody spend that much money on a car?
And I didn't have an answer for them.
That's because you're all thinking like poor people. I mean, you gotta ask yourself, what would Gordon Gekko do? And he'd probably stab a pedestrian who's jaywalking just to get his hands on an Aston Martin as he gets closer to the dealership while he's training in his old Aston Martin.
Right. Yeah, right. But when I saw the car, and even though other people really didn't know what it was, because as far as the Astons are concerned, their styling is it's beautiful, but it's subdued, that there is a feeling of, and I don't know if it has anything to do with if this is a thing post Occupy Wall Street, or, oh, you have money, therefore you're the bad guy, you don't know how it is. But, and I want to know why I think that way. It was very enjoyable to drive. I had a wonderful time. But I felt as if I should act antagonistic toward this machine.
Every time I've driven something expensive, I've always felt like a huge jerk driving it. So, I totally understand.
Right, and I did too. When I was driving this thing through Toledo, I wanted to have a sign on it that just said, "I'm sorry." Right?
Just a neon sign pointing down saying, "Not my car."
Yeah, yes. I'm like, and then it was so weird because the owner is sitting right next to me, and he said that people ask me the same thing: how fast does it go? How much does it cost? And what do you do? Those three things.
People are preoccupied with, like, you know, if you dare to have something flashy and dare to kind of like step up above the norm. I mean, you know, the guy could have probably avoided all those questions if he had just bought like a Porsche Cayman, which probably would have been just as fun, if not more enjoyable to drive. But something like an Aston Martin, you buy it because it's flashy, and that's when people are always gonna just kind of simmer with this undercurrent of rage that you're able to have something that they might never have, even though you might have worked your ass off for it.
Right, and he did. But there's something, I don't know if it's, I don't want to use the term society, because that just is a fancy word for trying to not say it's yourself. But when I saw the Aston Martin, what I became acutely aware of is the gap between worthiness in myself and worthiness between the owner. The chasm in contributions to society between myself and this owner of the Aston is greater than that between the contributions of society between myself and a fourth grader.
And that's what cars like Aston Martins do. They kind of put up this mirror of self-worth against you and the owner. Like, you know, if you had just worked a bit harder, you could have this car. And then, like, say the day comes where you do come into a lot of money and you're able to afford an Aston, and then you have to look back and say, would you honestly buy one if you could? Like, would you want to project that image that I'm better than you because I drive this car? Or would you, you know, do something else with the money, like buy land or a house? And that's not to say this guy doesn't have land or a house already.
Maybe this is what it felt like in the Middle Ages when people would look upon the lord of the land. Or maybe those people had a greater sense of themselves, like, well, I'm a serf and I'll stay a serf. But now we know that you can too ascend, but at the same time you see the gigantic obstacles in between you and whatever success it's supposed to mean at the end of the whole thing. This conversation is getting long. I gotta go back to making poop jokes and stuff.
Alright, go for it.
Alright, thanks for talking to me, Blake.
Yep. Talk to you soon.
Right, bye.
Aston Martin, we hold our farts in anytime we get in you. Aston Martin, Mario Kartin, I'd love to get a bang into. I'm in lust, I'm in lust, I'm in lust, I'm in lust, I'm in lust. I'm in lust, I'm in lust, I'm in lust, I'm in lust, I'm in lust.